Hey, spoiler, what's up, dude? Depends on what you're doing with the laptop, man. What's your plan? Doing some coding and research. If you're comfortable with it, Fedora would be fine. Yeah. Although, double check because I'm not sure what the support for Fedora is going to be coming up soon. All right, there we go. Ads are done. I think Fedora would be fine. I was actually just doing a quick Google search because I wasn't sure with the changes to Red Hat Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, if that was going to affect Fedora. I'll just do a little bit of checking on it real fast, actually. Oh, now you're back. Here, check this out. My only concern with Fedora, I usually stick to Debian-based distros. Here, I'll drop that over here for you. Look at that link and read through it because they're talking about kind of what's the future of Fedora look like with the changes to Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Right. Looks like it's time to get started up in here. Wait, hold on. Where's the button I'm looking for? One sec. Oh, my windows are out of position. There we go. All right. What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's had a fantastic Sunday so far, and I hope we're going to continue to have one because the browser stuff is happening. I can't wait. Looking forward to this. I'm still tickled pink about this browser. It's starting to work. There's some integration, a little bit more scaffolding to build up, and then it's going to be good. I cannot wait. Man, had a pretty chill day today. I've got a, by the way, reminder for everyone, there's not going to be a news stream on Tuesday. I'm going to be out of town, and so I've got to travel for work, but I'll be back soon, and then we can get back onto our regular streaming schedule. Let's see. Oh, that's where it's throwing the air. Okay. But other than that, not a whole lot going on today, man. I got packed up for my trip, played some Beat Saber with Agent Zero, watched a little anime with them. They're still really big on My Hero Academia. That's like the first anime I've shown them. And I think that's a good mix because it's not quite super hardcore anime, right? But it's right kind of in that comfortable mid spot. And they've been having a good time with it. So they were disappointed we only had time to watch one episode tonight. Usually we'll watch like 2 or 3. Let's see here. Let's take a look at where we left off with the code. Here we go. So we have to pass, I left myself a little note here. We're going to take this step task and we're going to pass it over to the browser. And this first thing happens here is we're going to check and see if it's an exploit task. If it's an exploit task, we have to, or basically the reason why we have this check in here is because the way the state table is structured, and eventually I will go through and map this out. I'm going to do like a hierarchical example of like, hey, this is where everything's coming in here. But the way this is kind of structured is the exploit tasks are stored in a little bit different way than the rest of the tasks. So we had to pull this out differently. So if it's an exploit task, we're going to leave it like that. If it is a, what is it? If it's anything else, then we're going to process it real quickly. So this one, in fact, we'll probably collapse a bunch of these primitives down. This was just to help remind me what's the path we're taking to pull all the pieces out. Let's see here. So to execute this, what we're going to need to do is this. This is going to have to be an async function right here, because we're going to need that so we can await the response from the browser. Let's see. So what we're going to do is, actually, didn't we have a, yeah, this was our browser prep up here. So what we're going to do is, because we have a couple steps we need to do. We need to actually initiate the browser session. And actually, we're going to store this up in the state table too. So this is probably actually going to happen up here. So we're going to check for an existing browser or create one. because we're going to name that browser. I've actually got a spot over here in persistence tools, and that's or persistent tools, and that's where we're going to store it all. So we're going to need to do that, because after we get the persistent browser up, it'll be real easy to either just pull that sucker out or drop it back in. And then here, then we actually execute what we're talking about right here. Yes, that's cool. So let's actually do that real quick. Let's bring this over here. Take that one out real fast. And then for our target session, actually, I think what we want to do is let's bring this up. So we have our current task. And then inside of that task, we check the. Oh, you know what I'm going to need? I actually need to log over to TryHackMe and start our attack box. You're going to tell me to log back in, aren't you? Oh, good. For once it didn't. Seems like it wants me to log in every 30 minutes, feels like. There we go. All right, we'll get the attack box, or our target box up and running. Let's see. So we bust out the current task, so we know which one that is. Hang on one sec, guys. I'm back. Sock had a question real fast. She needed to find some, I've got neoprene gloves for when I'm doing 3D printing, because that 3D printing resin, it's a resin printer. It's not like an extrusion printer. And that stuff is pretty nasty. So I've got that. She unfortunately sliced her finger open when she was working in the kitchen earlier, cutting up some stuff. And so she's like, where are those gloves at? I need one so she doesn't get like, nasty sink water in her cut. I was like, oh yeah, they're right over here. So I was just getting those for her real fast. Gotta take care of her. She takes care of me. Let's see. So this is what we're going to do. But actually, once we get the current task, from our task, we need to figure out what the target is. Oh wait, which we actually already have up here. Let me collapse the output here. Target IP. That's how we're going to kind of track this, is we're going to go by target IP for the browser name. So what we will do is, once we get that, we'll get our target IP, and that's going to be from our state table. And we're going to grab that from our tasks, and then we'll index that one on our current task, just like that. And then from our current task, we want to get the target IP. So let's get that sucker real quick. There we go. So now that we've got the target IP, what we're going to do is we're going to format string this right here. And instead of calling this a session, we'll just call it browser. Hey, Austin, what's up, dude? Android 17's code name is Cinnamon Bun. I do like that they name those after desserts. I don't know why. I find it funny. I do enjoy a good naming convention. Target IP. There we go. Actually, you know what I want to do is, before I do that, we're actually just going to format this as the session name. Because what we're going to do is we're going to check the state table to see if we already have one. So let's take this out. Supposed to cut. There we go. Drop that in here. And this is going to be our session name. But before we actually decide this, we're going to check the state table down here in persistence tools. So what we're going to check is white cinnamon bun. I don't know. I don't know if they have a particular rhyme and reason to it, but what they do is they just always have a, where is this? Let's see. Android version names. Because what they do is they just name them all after desserts, right? So, like, I don't know what a petite four is, but then we had cupcake, we had donut, eclair, froyo, gingerbread, honeycomb. Let's see, what was before? Let's see, 16 is baklava. Not a bad name. I actually didn't know there was a 12L. Funny. But yeah, that's what they do, is they pick some kind of, tasty dessert. That's what they name Android after. Let's see. Maybe somebody had Cinnabon. And they're like, hey, you know what? We haven't done cinnamon buns. Let's do that. How do I want to do this? So our persistence tools here, you can kind of see it over my shiny dome. This is a dictionary with a string. Let me put a little note here. This should be... I'm going to call this. This is going to be... I'm going to make a little bit of a note here. So this is going to be... maybe we'll call this the agent... In this case, it'd be like the browser agent. And it's going to map to any. So how do I want to do this? So we expect like the browser agent to hold browsers in here. So we'll say like agent and then tool. Kind of just like the general structure of it, which could be anything. Did they have an Apple one in there? I'd be surprised if they did, just because they don't want to be associated with Apple. No. It would be funny, though, if they came up with one that they called, like, apple pie or something. Alright, so how do I want to store this in here? What I want to do is, I think we're going to check persistence tools. So we'll say state persistence tools, and then we'll use... I'm going to define a global up here. We're going to call this... We're going to call this the agent name. We're going to call this browser agent. And the reason so I'm going to make this kind of like a default whenever we get to it. But the reason why is because I want them stored by the agent name and then whatever the tool is. Now, what are you complaining about? Statement has no effect. It's because I'm not done with it. Chill out. Actually, this actually brings up a good point. Let's do something. We want to check to see if browser... Well, first thing we want to do is actually we want to check to see if the browser agent has stored anything over in persistence tools. And then if it hasn't, we can instantly jump to it. We don't have to go make an agent. Do I like the state that I'm from? Yeah, man, I was pretty much... my parents moved to Texas when I was a year old, so I've been in Texas pretty much my entire life. I lived in Louisiana for a couple years. That was, it was okay. Louisiana's not terrible, but it's not Texas, and I really missed Texas. So when Agent Zero was born, my wife and I decided we wanted to move back to be close to our families, because my family is in the same area as hers. We're just all right around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, I like it.
I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Frozen? You giving me trust issues, bro. What's up, man? Alright. So... I gotta remember how to check for this. Let's see. We have to enum this, is what we need to do. So what we're going to do is, I think it's 4, KV in enum this. I believe that's what gets us back what we're doing. No, that's not what we want to do. That is not what we want to do. Dang it, what is it? Let's see. Python checkboard dictionary key. Gotta remember what to do with it. What's good, man? Dude, we're working on I think we're gonna be able to get the browser agent hooked into the exploitation agent. And then if that works, I think the exploitation agent will actually be at a baseline functional state, at least for root me. So that's the big push for tonight, is get that browser hooked up. It looks like I think the way it's going to operate will work, but we're going to hack around and we're going to find out. Let's see. Oh, you can literally just do if the key is in the D. Funny. Let's see. So if agent name in, we can take this out. Hi, Kratos. What's up, Dora? Oh, you're in upstate New York, Austin? I would like to go visit New York. My niece lives up. She's actually in New York City. I'd like to go visit her sometime. I just haven't had a chance to, man. It's hard to get up that way. I don't have, we don't typically have a lot of clients that require us to go on site, and that's where I do the majority of my traveling. And whenever I'm going on like vacation, I'm not traveling somewhere to go have an adventure. I'm traveling somewhere to decompress and get away from everything and chill out. So that's usually what I'm doing. Only about 3 hours away from NYC. Yeah. I know. My niece has lived there for, I want to say, about at least 5 years. Maybe as many as 7. I don't remember exactly when she moved up there. But I've been meaning to go up there and visit her. Only 3 hours is so American. It is, though. It really is. My grandparents, they were only 3 hours away from me here in Texas. And considering, like, so the last time I drove to Arizona, right, Dora? Check the, I mean, hold on. Let me give you an example here. Let's do a drive here. Where was I going? I was going to Sedona, Arizona, right? If I come down here and I do directions, it will just say from Dallas, right? So here's the drive time, right? 14 hours of this. And typically, actually, I think this is the route that I took, right? So this route is about 15 hours. Yeah, that's about what I remember. It's about 1,000 miles, right? I drove so much of this in Texas. Look, half the trip was practically just in Texas, and I was going 2 states over. So yeah, only 3 hours is a pretty standard unit of measurement in the States. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, like in somewhere like the UK, a 12-hour drive is like from the very top to the very bottom of the island, right? That's like, it's like, heck, that's one state. The scale is just so different. Let me see here. All right, what was I doing? So if the agent name is in persistence tools, we're going to do one more check, and we're going to say if, let's see, we're going to do if session name in, we'll grab this guy, because then we're going to actually pull out the key here, and we'll do agent name right here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say I know there's a more efficient way to do this, but this is the way I'm going to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to say agent is going to equal in there. I kind of do want to do something. Hold on. I think it's like this. Think like that. I might have this wrong. Let me see. You think if I've got the if-thens right? You can finish entire countries in 14 hours. Yeah, I know. It's I was watching some videos of these guy, this man and woman from the UK, and they were driving around the United States. They were talking about how much they had driven, and that's the only reason why I have a good understanding of the scale comparison, because I just hadn't really looked at it. And they're talking about and that was where I got the comparison. Like they're like, it's about 12 hours, from top to bottom of some countries, and like you can do that inside of just Texas by itself. Takes 14 hours to go from the very south of the UK to the very north. Okay, 14 hours, yeah. And I have driven 14 hours just inside of Texas before. Especially if you're going like from up in the Panhandle way down to the Gulf Coast. I mean, heck, just from Dallas down to the coast, I think that was about because I was going pretty far south down there, Corpus Christi. I want to say that was an 8-hour drive, just that, right? And that's not even a long stretch inside of Texas. That's like a medium-sized stretch. Let's see if I've got this correct in my head here. I think I do want to break this out a bit. I'm going to make this a little bit more explicit, because that line is getting a little bit long there. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if the agent name is in our persistence tools, and we've already initialized it, and then we're going to say, hey, if this browser exists, then we're going to go ahead and initialize that. Boom. Let's see. Brightening link. Hey, what's up, man? Thank you for coming online. Welcome in, and I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic Sunday. Let's see here. All right, so we pull this out. So we know that basically persistence tool starts blank, right? So we'll check and see if the agent has already initialized something over in the persistence tools. If it has, we'll check to see, do we already have a browser session for the target? Basically, the way I'm looking at it is most targets are going to have their own browser session in here. Hey, no problem, man. Dude, we're just having some fun doing a little bit of HackBot dev. Let's see. So if the session name is in there, then we'll go ahead and pull that value out. We'll assign it to our agent. We'll be good. If it's not in there, then what we're going to do is we're going to initialize this. How do I want to do this? This is actually where we'll use this line. We'll initialize the persistent browser right here. So what we'll do is we will say, here's what our agent is going to equal. And then instead of test session, this is going to be our session name right here. So let's drop that in. Ooh, just like that. And then what we need to do is we need to commit this to the state table. So we'll drop that in here. That's now going to equal agent. Just like that. So now if we don't have it in here, then we've got it. And if we don't have this in here, then what we'll do is we'll just drop a little else statement here, and we're just going to basically do the exact same thing here. And this should, I think this should work. If we don't have the key in there, we're basically adding the key value pair right there. Let's see, is there a more efficient way I can do this? So we say the agent name. So if it's in there, then we pull this out. Actually, we may not even need this else statement. Actually, no, we are, because we're going to need it for that. Because what if we have that key set up, but it's not in that value? They're still vibing. Yeah, I'll leave this for now. I think there's a more efficient way to do it. I just don't want to mess with it right now. Let's see. So we get our current task, we get our target IP, our session name. We're going to check to see if it's there. And then if we've got it, then we'll go grab our agent out of here. What is this actually returning? Let me double check. Oh, one thing we'll also have to do is after we get this, what we'll have to do is, yeah, that's it. We just have to do this because whenever we execute the task, let me double check, but whenever we run execute task, it should actually go through the initialization function. Let me double check that real quick. For state, if state agent is none, and we start a browser session. Yeah, I think we're good there. I think so. We're going to try it out. All right. So now we've got our agent nice and set up. Let's go back up here. What we'll do is I'm just going to prepend this real quick. We'll put some data aside for our agent. So we'll say none. And then this way, it's going to be stored up in this scope. And we should be good now. So once we get our agent all set up, now we'll be good right here. So check for existing browser or create one. And then down here, let me put a little note in here. It's like extract task from exploit tasks. And then for our else statement down here, this is going to be for everything else. This is going to be extract task for other agents. For all other agents. There we go. So now all we need to do is actually just invoke the agent right here. So if it's an exploit task, which is what we're currently working on because we're working on the exploitation agent. Let's see. Our result is going to be our agent, and this is now going to be our step task. Just like that. That should work. So we extract the task out, we make sure the agent's all nice and set. If it's an exploit task, we extract out what it was the individual step it needs to take. And we should be good. And now we can kind of just do the similar thing we've got right here on the other side. Let's take this. We'll have our result come back. Let's see, so we extracted the task, our task output, which should be an exploit task. So this is actually not what we want. So when we're doing this a little bit differently in here, let's see, here we go. So the way these tasks are going to look, right here, this is the actual task we want to get. So a little bit simpler. So we get our current task, and then actually we don't need to do any of these parts right here. There's just additional processing that's going to happen. Pretty much. So this is going to be an exploit task. This is going to be... What is this going to be? Where's our task list? Remember. It's just going to be a regular task. That's it. This will be a task. Now we're not going to get the output. We're going to get the actual task from it. Like that. So this will be what do I want to call this? It gets kind of weird whenever you're like task. I wish I had named those a little bit differently, but I'm not going to go change them right now. What do I call this? Task object. Task. Let's do that. Make it nice and clear what we're doing. Oh, that should be a task. Actually, this should be a string. There we go. That should be good. And then now we just take our task. We drop it right here. Boop. Just like that. Excellent. All right. I think that actually works out pretty well. So we pull it out for exploit. We pull it out for all the other individual ones. We bring that up, and then... After that's done, now what we need to do is we need to define what the return structure is going to be. So let's actually instantiate one other thing real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this maybe our output. We think about this fast. Because what I had actually wanted to do, we come back over here. Notice how for each of our steps, we have another output to track it. So I actually want to go take that and put that into the output in here. So we will need to update our tasks. Okay. So our return is going to be a little funky. That's okay. What we're going to return is we're going to return an object, and that's going to be squished into the state table. So first thing we want. Let's actually go ahead and do that real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to create an output, and this is just going to be maybe a typed dictionary. And it's going to be blank. So this is going to be what we're going to return here at the beginning. This guy right here. And in fact, it's not even going to be a typed dictionary. It's just going to be a div. So once we've got this, because we might need to make a little bit of additions right here, right? Because actually, as I think about it, this is probably not the best place to store this. What we're going to want to do is, after we get the agent, rather than our state table, actually, no, this is fine. Because what we can do is actually we can just append that over to it. So we're going to need to return our persistent tools up here. So first key we're going to do is, actually we need to return messages, because we're going to put some logging messages in here. That's going to be something. We're going to want to return our persistence tools. Check this out. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy that from our copy of our state here. So we're going to update all of our persistence tools. Let's see, what else we're going to do. We're going to have to update the task that we're working on right up here. So let's see here. Yeah, I think we'll be good with that. Because what we can do now is, so if it's an exploit task, we can return this, and then actually what we can also do is we can do, yeah, we're going to take this part right here. I got to remember the structure of it. So we get the step, and then once we get the step, we're going to have our output over here. So we're going to get our task, and we're going to index. Yeah, index that on our current task right there. That is not correct. That. And then once we get our current task, where is that at? Let's see, we already have our step index in there. So we know this is an exploit task. Let's see. Let me blow this up a little. So I got a little bit extra room. What this is a copy of the state table as we were working through this last night. So I can keep it. I can try to keep track of the structure. So this will be our task. It's going to be in an array of tasks. And then we want to get the output. That's going to be indexed on. Oh, wait, I forgot about this. We actually do need that on output 0 because of just the way the structure is. Because notice how output is this array here, but really there's only one object in the output. So we just grab that first object right there. The camera's blurry. Dang it. I hate when it does that. Hang on. It's so rude when it does this. Hang on. I have been meaning to get a new camera. This one is just not doing it for me. Let's see. Will that fix it? No, hang on one sec. There we go. Thanks, guy, for the heads up. It's up there, but I just see it kind of out of the corner of my eye. Didn't really even notice. Let's see. All right, so we index on that output right there. And then, once we get that, let's see, we have our current step, which is we call that our step index. And then from our task output, we're going to get our steps. And the object in there, we're going to index that on our step index. Just like that. Let's see. And after we get the step index, then this gets us to this point right here. So now we would be at this guy right here. In theory, right? Whichever one it is. Why the tool is there, I have no idea. I would have said something, but I thought the blur was your unearthly aura distress in the camera. It could be. It does it at random times. Maybe it's just, you know, mildly intimidated instead of perpetually intimidated. I really doubt it, though. Anybody who knows me knows I'm just a giant teddy bear. I'm a big old softie. That's what my wife says. She's like, you're just a giant marshmallow. It's like, I know, honey. Oh, cool. So you set up GitHub Actions to deploy everything over to Google Cloud. You got a full pipeline, still polishing it up, and I have a runner installed on my PC that was able to build the Windows app. Nice, dude. I have not actually messed much with GitHub Actions, even though at my company we make really big use of like all sorts of CI/CD pipelines and builds, but I just haven't gotten a chance to mess with them very much. It's been on my perpetual to-do list. I bet you tell the best stories on campfires. Man, I actually have really missed camping. Due to various life events over the past really like year, I have not gotten to go out and do much overnight camping. Typically what we used to do, my son and a bunch of my nephews, they do cross-country ATV racing. And so we would go up there, we'd camp, we'd get up early in the morning, they'd do their race. The kids just have a blast. They form little roving marauder bands. And people come out there with like giant RVs and stuff and set it up. And it's just like a little tiny village set up here and like on somebody's farm, right? Basically, the racing association rents out a farm. They go build a track. They have like a little camping area. And this little roving marauder band of these young kids ranging in ages from like 5 to 15. They just go around and they play and they have fun. And then they usually just go accost all the various RVs at different times of the night for snacks. So, and I miss that. We haven't gotten to do that since January. That was the last time. And then just due to a lot of life circumstances, haven't had a chance to do that. So, also, the racing season takes a break this time of year because this is the hottest time in Texas, going into like August. So, actually, we had a break today. It was only 95 Fahrenheit today. Only. That's a cool spell during the summer. Sounds like my neighborhood, except I'm in downtown Portland. Oh. You know what's funny, Ken? Actually, so I'm going up to Seattle this week, and I keep thinking every time somebody tells you they're in Portland, I'm like, oh, that's not very far away. It's like, it's in a different state. Like, but it feels like it should be so close for some reason to me. I don't know why. Let's see. Actually, I want to update two things in here. One is the tool, I think. Yeah, we want to append onto the tool here. So there's two things we want to do. So after this, right? So this gets us into the step, right? There we go. It needs to be like that. So once we get into the step, there's actually two fields in here we need to update. We need to update the tool in here. So our tool, this is going to be our agent name right here. And then we're going to copy this. Oh, I think I have this. Oh, I do have a typo here. This should actually be like, there we go. And then I did the same thing for step index here. This is not correct, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Because those are integers. That's why I had it backwards. And then instead of the tool for our output, what we're going to drop is we're going to drop the result in there. Just like that. Okay, so that should update our individual step in here. Should be good. Say hi to Adelform? That might be a joke, I don't know, Ken. Oh, so Seattle and Portland are only like 3 hours apart? Okay, maybe that's why I feel like they're so close to each other. Let's see. I'm going to see. Oh God, Ken. Yes, I am going to Seattle. Yes. Bro, that one even made my head hurt. Jeez, man. That one just almost flew right over my head. In fact, it did there in the beginning. It circled back around and crashed right into my dome. Right into the smoothness of the brain. All right. Let's see here. So basically what we're doing is we're committing this stuff back over to our local copy of the state table. And then when we get ready to basically emit this stuff back up to the state manager, we'll basically just say, hey, these are the keys that we're updating. So we're going to also update our tasks in here. So for tasks, let's see. This is going to be from, we're just going to pull out our local copy of the task table, and we're just going to emit that whole thing into it. Or return it, really. So we do want that. Messages in here is going to be just agent messages. Messages, I know I've mentioned this before, but it always bears repeating. Messages, the way it's set up with an annotated list in here, what we can do is we can just keep a list of whatever the new messages. In theory, those are supposed to be messages from the AI system. And so it'd be like basically like a track of the conversation. But the way it's set up is we can just keep a list of like what the new messages are and then go drop them over down in there. And in fact, this is, yeah, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the output. That's going to be from our result. That should be a list of all of our messages when it executes. Let me check something. No, that's not what I wanted. No, that's not what I wanted either. Anyway, I think this will work. We'll probably have to go through and debug it a little. Okay, so this is for our exploit task. We'll still need to do this over here. But this is actually going to be the same thing, just different keys that we're going to update in here. So what we'll do is we're going to say our state task, current task, and then we're just going to get the output from that. So this output field right here. So everything after this part can just go. Actually, take that back. Yeah, our tool's right there. So, oh, you know what I just realized? This actually needs to be an append operation. Because what we want to do is like that. That shouldn't be a string. Tool should be an array. Yeah, so we do steps, we index it here. Yeah, this should be correct. Maybe I've got this, let's see, steps. After step index, though, this should actually bust out one of these. So we have our step task, status tools. Thought I had this correct. Maybe I don't. Let me see. All right, so we go to task. We get the index of the current task. And then we go to the output field. We're always going to grab the 0 element in that. And then we get whatever's associated with the steps keys. We index that on whatever the current step is for the exploit task. And then we get the tool right there. For some reason, it doesn't have any problem with that. Let's say this should be pulling out this array right here. That should be no problem. Because what we want to do is we want to... you know what? It's fine. Just leave it like that. No, really this should be appended onto this. Because if we have... Let's say it takes multiple tool calls with multiple outputs. That's the whole reason why these are arrays in here. So, for example, let's say the first tool call was an HTTP GET. Then the first element in the output array would be its corresponding output. And then let's say the second tool was something like our browser agent, right? This is going to be our second element. So then the second element in the output would be, hey, what did the browser agent do? That was the whole reason why it was set up like that. Let's see. Did I finish my drink? Not sponsored by Jocko. Yeah. I'm serious. Not sponsored by them, but these are really good drinks. They're not a ton of caffeine, and it's very, very clean energy. I can drink one of these. I start at the beginning of the stream. Usually takes about an hour to get through it because I'm just sipping on it. And then by the time the stream ends, I'm usually about ready to go to bed. Now, granted, I also burned caffeine real fast. I can knock it out. My wife, if she drank this, she's a slow caffeine metabolizer. It would wreck her sleep. So be aware, your mileage may vary depending on what your biological settings are. Let's see. Yeah, it is tool. It's not tools. And we have output. I think that's why. I'm trying to figure out what... I'm trying to see if IntelliSense is just absolutely losing its mind. Dude, Ken, I don't drink hardly at all. And I thought it was so funny because my last trip that I took in May, we had a big company like gathering sync week kind of thing, and I hadn't probably had anything to drink in over a year. But it was one of the few times I get to see like all of my coworkers. 99% of the company's remote, and so they fly everybody in there for this. And so I get in, and then that night, a whole big bunch of us, like 40 of us, decide to go out to a bar. So like, okay, yeah, I'll go out there. I'll go get some drinks. I left my wallet at home. Not actually, no, I take it back. I left everything except my credit card. That was the only thing I took with me. I didn't want to carry my wallet around. And we get to the bar, and he is carding everybody. I'm like, bro, really? It's like, will this cover me? All of this and this? And he's like, well, how old are you? And I'm like, what year is it? And he deadpan, he's like, it's 2025. I'm like, I'm 41. And he's like, all right, you had to do the math on that. You're good. He stamped my hand. And then to top that night off, after that, of like wondering if I'm actually going to get let into the bar, which I haven't had to worry about in well over 20 years, probably. I ask him, or they get a bunch of drinks together, and Buddy hands me a shot, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, we'll go drink that. And it was Fireball. I'm like, really? I have not drank anything in a year, and you're going to give me Fireball? Come on. And they knew this. Because I was trying to get out of going. I was like, all right, fine. You know what? We'll go do some team building. A lot of places are carding everyone by policy. I saw an old lady get turned away from buying a bottle of wine at Rite Aid. You sure you're not 17? No, I'm very much not 17. Not for a while. I have not been 17 since 2001. Yeah. That's wild though, seeing an old lady get turned away from buying a bottle of wine. That's just a I don't want to think policy. That's what that is. All right. I have to double check this. All right. So we go down into tasks. We get the index, that's an array, right? And then we get the current task element from that array. We pull out the output key. Output's only ever going to have one object because of the way the exploits are structured. And then we get the steps key. We index that on the steps index. And then we pull out the tool key right here. This should get us to here, right? So up to this point, right, where line 926 is, that puts us right here. So then we go to the output and 0. That gets us to here. So now we are actually in, yes, so now we're at line 933. We go pull out the steps key. Steps is an array. So then we pull out whatever our index is. That gets us, in theory, when we're first starting off, down to this section. And then we pull out the tool key. And after we do that, it just loses its dang mind. It's a corporate place, so they don't want the employees to think. That's very true. That is very true. Okay, so why does it have no problem with me assigning it like this when this is absolutely an array? Let me do something real quick. Let me see if IntelliSense will tell me what type this is going to be here. Yeah, so it doesn't even know. I'm going to go with this is IntelliSense not being able to track what's happening in the state table. And I'm going to try this. I'm going to leave it like this. I'm pretty sure that's the way we want it to be. And then the same thing for this. We're going to append... I got to remember how to do this, actually. Hang on. Let's see. Python list append. Let me check something real quick. Yeah, so when you append it, it doesn't actually return anything. Let me try something real quick. Print X. Here. Yeah, because when you actually run the append operation, it doesn't actually return anything. It just operates on this, but it returns nothing in here when that happens. Let me try something real quick. Fruits, plus equals. That should actually append onto the array. No, it doesn't. I spelled orange wrong. I believe when you do this, you actually have to... And then it combines the list elements. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So that is what I want to do. I had to remind myself. And then same thing for this one right here. Just like that. And it's going to say the same thing here. It's like, hey, expected this. Yeah, trust me. I think I know what's happening. Let's see. So from tools and then from output. There we go. Actually, you know what I need to do? Now that I think about this, we need to go run Stinger and let it go through and do its thing and get us an updated pickle file so then we can test just the exploitation agent. Let's do that real quick. We can let it run in the background. Let's grab this real quick. No, actually, oh good, it didn't take it. Because I forgot, I have not updated it with the current IP address. There we go. That's actually what I need. Here we go. Hey, Dan, what's up? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. I almost called it Saturday. 1010... 167.95. That's our target IP address? Yes, it is. All right, cool. Run this. Commit. Commit. Oh, dang it. I think the LangGraph server crapped out on me. It sure did. I'm actually thinking, because of some of these issues with the way LangGraph is running, whenever we get to the MVP, let's call it, like all the 4 primary agents are done and it can solve RootMe, and we get ready to do the first rewrite of everything, I'm thinking at that point, actually we'll consider maybe switching to a different framework off of LangChain, maybe to something like rigging, and then maybe just introduce something called MLflow and not have to worry about the LangGraph server. Hey, Dan, thanks for the resub, man. I appreciate it. Go away. Go away. Don't need out there, those. Posted the screenshot up in Discord. Okay, cool. I'll take a look at it. Dude, I had a pretty chill day today, Dan. Went and we just... that's not good. Oh, what happened there? I had a pretty chill day today. Went to church, went to go visit my mom, and then I took like a 2-hour nap and played some Beat Saber with the kids, and then we ate dinner and watched My Hero Academia. It was a pretty nice chill day. Paid for the sub right as the ad had started. Oh no. Rip. Anyways, while this is running, I gotta run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Guess who's back? Back again. Blaise is back. Tell a friend. I had to go check on Honey Badger real quick. On top of going to the bathroom. Where are we at? Enum's running right now. Perfect. Yeah, Honey Badger had to get up, and so I was checking on it real fast. Send him back to bed. All right, let's see here. That can be running real quick in the background while it's doing that. All right, so our nice browser agent. Oh, this needs to be a plus, actually. That is what we did, right? Yeah, plus equals. All right, so then what we need to return is, we're gonna need to return our task table. Got that. And then we're also gonna need to put some logging messages in here. So actually, let me go pop over to the enum agent. And we're just gonna copy what I did from that right there. Now, let me see what you did over in GitHub. Let's see. Very cool. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with GitHub, like GitHub Actions or anything, but I really do appreciate the flexibility that they give you. And so that's awesome that you've got that set up. Did it take you very long to set it up? Hey, Vipin, what's up, man? What did I just stumble on? Hey, Shake. So, what you just stumbled on is we're building a little hacking bot in a framework called LangGraph, and its whole job is to play capture the flag hacking games. So right now what we're doing is we're adding a browser into the mix. So yeah, let me show you real fast. Here's my browser. Here we go. So essentially it looks like this, right? This is going to be basically the supervisor, and then we've got 4 specialty agents. The 4th one is has not been started yet. We're currently on number 3, which is our exploitation agent. But we've got a special agent that does, or a specialized primary agent, we call it, to do recon, enumeration, exploitation. Eventually we'll have another one over here to do post-exploitation. And what we're adding in right now is we're adding in the first special agent where it's its own little graph. So this right here is the main like parent workflow, let's call it. And then each of these agents has their own workflow that they execute right here. And so as they come through and they do their execution, they basically make observations, report it back up to Stinger, which is the supervisor, and then it hands it off to the next ones. Right now, Stinger's kind of dumb. We're going to expand Stinger's functionality later. But once the 4 primary agents get done, Stinger's actually going to be the last one. And then Stinger's going to be given the most minimal amount of information and basically told, go forth and hack stuff. And that's what we're going to be shooting for. I'm attempting something similar with Agent Zero. Now, you know what's funny, Shay, is actually Agent Zero is what I call my oldest son. That's his code name, since he's the first element in the children's array, right? The 0 element. So I call him Agent Zero. My second son is Honey Badger, and he has earned every bit of that name. He has no F's to give. Let's see. So what we're doing right now is we have a browser set up using Playwright over MCP. It's running in its own Docker container. And so what we're doing is the browser is now actually being wrapped into its own agent in here, which is going to be the first of these like special agents that we're going to have. And we're getting where we can hook this specialty agent over into the larger parent graph. Guy, if I knew more about GitHub Actions, I would definitely go pull it up and see if I could lend you a hand. It's just not something I've gotten to dig into very much. In fact, usually the only thing I know about CI/CDs is when I get to hack into them. Because they're a gold mine whenever I'm doing a penetration test or a red team of finding all sorts of unsecured passwords and API keys. And even the secured ones, there's ways to leak them out of the CI/CD pipeline. So... are you planning on using an alloy similar to Expo? What do you mean by alloy in that case? I find Expo very interesting, but it also seems very web heavy. This one, the idea is it won't be so restricted on there. And plus it will have to do things like privilege escalation. So once we get to the privilege escalation point here, exploitation's job is to get some kind of single command execution on a target. And then post-exploitation is actually going to have multiple jobs that it's going to handle. One, it's going to be upgrading the exploit from the exploitation agent to a full C2 infrastructure. And then post-ex is then going to handle interactions for all the post-exploitation work that happens over Mythic C2. So we're going to integrate over into Mythic. And Cody, the guy who wrote Mythic, is a very good buddy, acquaintance of mine. I don't know how he'd classify it. I'm going to call him a buddy. I think he's a great guy, and I talk to him all the time. He's going to actually come back on the stream and kind of give us ideas and be answering questions about it. So they use a dual aid to hand off tasks to each other and figure out which would handle it better. Oh, interesting. And Prodhaze, thank you for coming online. I hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. I don't know. Eventually, I think I'm probably going to... Possibly down the line, I'll influence something like that, Shay. I'm not thinking about that currently. Essentially, once Stinger gets to the point that I can provide the most minimal information. Because right now, what we're doing is we're providing it with breadcrumbs, right? Essentially, we're giving it a list of tasks that it needs to do to complete the assessment, right? So what version of it does like a, hey, scan the target to find out how many ports are open, what version of Apache's running, find out what's running on 22. We can kind of infer that. Literally, we tell it to use GoBuster to find hidden directories on the web server, find out which ones have an upload form, get remote code execution from a web shell. And so right now we're breadcrumbing it along. Eventually what will happen is these will start getting paired back and we'll start adding thinking functionality over into Stinger. And Stinger will then have to develop these tasks and then assign them to an agent and let it go do its thing. They found that that situation helps solve better than just one AI. So are they using different models and then basically submitting those tasks to it and letting it do it? Because actually that's something I was thinking about doing, because I have my tiny home AI server over here. It's an old server. It was an old hash cracker from way back in the day, but it's got two 1080 Ti cards in it. And so with something like Ollama, which makes really good use of multiple cards, I can run slightly larger models. Like I've got GPT OSS running on it right now. Okay. Yeah, actually that's something I was thinking about doing, because with LangChain, here in the configuration setup here, let me bring this over. In the configuration setup, we can actually define different models and then have them come in here to do that. So we could actually define, hey, here's OpenAI, here's Anthropic, here is Ollama, and let it go through and be like, hey, go ahead and submit these to this, and then we could have like a consensus, basically like a voting mechanism. It's like, okay, I want you to handle this particular task. We could potentially do that. That's just something that's way further down the line. Right now, everything's running through Anthropic's Claude 3.7. Which one's best? It depends on what you're trying to do, Bippin. If you're trying to do certain tasks, different language models, because of the way they were trained, they handle them differently. And I couldn't really tell you which one's offhand. Let me think. Because there's actually two different models I'm running on that server, and one of them is doing some summarization work, like taking large chunks of text and summarizing it, and the other one, GPT OSS, I haven't got to use yet. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. I think I'm of the opinion, I think Claude is doing a pretty good job on at least coding with Python, because this browser section in here, I had to do a lot of asynchronous work, and I'm not very familiar with how a lot of the async loops work in Python. So I did have Claude help out with this portion here of getting the actual interaction to the MCP server and making sure it stays stateful, because before it kept initializing a new state every time. Hey, Adam, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Quinn and Kimmy work best for your guardrails? Gotcha. I haven't really tested them out. Quinn, usually I see recommended for coding assistance. So like, for example, if I wanted to put the continue plugin into here, I could load up Quinn on the home AI server and have it use that as an assistant. But actually, I'm trying to use as little, I'm actually trying to use as little AI assistance when coding this as possible. There's only been 2 sections where I actually had to, after struggling and fighting with it, I did finally acquiesce, like, okay, show me what you think this should be. And it was this particular browser portion, and then one other that integrates with one of our tooling servers called RoboPages. And because another secondary effect of this whole endeavor is I actually really suck at writing code from scratch. Working on it, finding vulnerabilities, modifying it, that's no problem. But writing from scratch is a completely different endeavor, and I wanted to get better at it. So this was an excuse to do that. And I don't actually like playing CTFs a whole lot. I think they're fun, but they're not super enjoyable, if that makes sense. They're kind of like Sudoku for hackers. And so I was like, okay, well, I like all the AI and language model stuff. Let's see if we can combine the two together and make it coherent. So what we're doing right now is we're just kind of massaging everything. This browser here is getting wrapped up into a LangGraph graph, and then we're going to expose that over to the parent graph over here, and then we got to figure out a way for the exploitation agent to route over to it. So I think what we're going to do is we have a loop here, or what I call like our speculative tasking, and how it thinks about their exploits. Because the exploitation agent comes through and it says, okay, I think these 3 methods might work for allowing us to exploit service X. Once it gets those, the exploit planner actually says, okay, what's the plan? All right, here's the steps we need to do. And then it starts executing those steps kind of like in a feedback and revision loop here. But one thing I think we're going to do is we're probably going to add a second node like over here that says, by the way, can we process this with a special agent? And if so, don't send it to the tool node, send it to the specialty agent. So we're going to add a conditional jump in here. That's what these look like. These dashed lines, these are conditional jumps. So for example, revisor over here, it could either jump back over to the loop to continue going through all the various steps, or it could pass it back to the exploitation agent if it thinks that we've completed the exploit. So lots of fun. Having a good time with it. I'm especially excited about this because getting the browser functional was more or less like a 2-month endeavor. So we tried lots of different methods, lots of different things. Eventually, the very simplest method actually worked the best. It's kind of funny. Let's see. Oh wait, I remember what I was doing. What I need is, I need something like this. So what I want to do is I want to add some logging messages into here. So that's right. We have agent messages. Let's see. So let's add one logging message into here. So we'll say agent messages, and then what we'll do is we're going to add this guy to it. So I need to import this AI message from LangChain's core. That is not correct. There we go. Bring this over. And this is going to be from our... I'm going to format string this, actually. Yeah, I'm going to do that. This is going to be our agent name. And what we're going to say is... we're going to put a note in here that says we're using this particular browser session. Let's see. We'll say we'll say using session, and then we'll put the session name in here, just like that. You could also have redundant loops, not to break the system, but new things can be found when running the same command over and over, depending on the state of the CTF. That's true, too. That's actually one of the things that bugs me about CTF sometimes is when they get stuck in, like the box you're attacking gets stuck in weird states. In fact, Tyler Ramsby ran across that. He's usually doing one whenever he live streams. And sometimes they'll run into that, like, hey, this should be the path to go down for this exploit, and it's just not working. So then he'll usually check like a README or like a write-up on the CTF. And it's like, yeah, this is the exact method that should work. It's just the CTF box didn't deploy correctly. And it happens. It can be really annoying. Ironically, that's probably one of the most real life things that's going to happen in a CTF than anything else, is an exploit you know should work and you know the tooling should work with it, and it doesn't. That's actually the most real life thing about a CTF possible. Yeah, or a reset script runs every 30 seconds or something silly. Yeah, no joke. Now, I can understand that for it if you're doing something like a buffer, if like it's a buffer exploit and you could crash the service. I could understand something like that. But for some of them, it's just not such a thing, right? Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, so we added a quick agent message here that says we're going to be using, let's just say using browser session. Let's see, we'll put that in here, and then we'll say, all right, so here's all of our exploitation stuff. We're going to get our result. I think I do want to go ahead and we'll take like the last line of the result here. We'll add that into it. So let's drop this in there as well. And what we'll say is, what we want to drop in here is we'll take the result from it, And we'll just take the very last message that happens. And chances are, now these are just nice to have logging messages that are happening. This isn't so much the exact conversation that's happening with the language model. That's typically how people track this. Everything that we're tracking that we're using for context, though, is actually being tracked over in the state table. So we're not using messages as our context tracking. We build the context for each message call every time we send something up to the language model. Well, let's see. I think that'll be good. And then here, for every other agent, I think we want this same thing right here. Actually, you know what we can do is, because these are exactly the same, we can actually break those outside of the loop, just like that. Because results is going to come back right here. Actually, will it? Let me think. Let me put this up here. Let me instantiate this so we have a placeholder and we scope that variable a little higher. But agent is used. If we're using it down here. Well, it's not used in the outer scope, which I'm fine with. Let's see. Okay, so we append our messages. All right, so then agent messages, that's going to get appended to our message key. We update our persistence tools just in case we are going to need it. And then we update our tasks because we're updating all the tasks in these two sections right here. So okay, Shay, thanks for stopping in though, man. Appreciate it. Super appreciate it. Love it when folks stop in. That's all we're doing here, guys. We're hacking around, we're finding out, we're having some fun building a toy. We're building a toy tank. That's what we're doing essentially. Having some fun. Actually, I don't even think we even need this. Come to think of it. Let's look here from the notes from yesterday. So the idea here was we'd have a prep and then pass that to the browser, but really it's like we could combine these two in here. So this is actually just going to be a very simple workflow where these two just kind of take place in one. So very, very short graph that's going to happen here. And the reason for this is because the browser actually already has its own graph instantiated and built into it. So it looks kind of funny, but there's the reason why this is such a small graph with just one giant node. Love from India. Oh, dude, at one of my last jobs, I had a big crew from India that I worked with. And where were they at? There were two cities. Well, half the team was in Bangladesh, and I forget where the other half was. But they were really cool to work with. They were all really, really nice guys. Let's see. I can't say the same about the rest of the team from India, but my team that was there, they were all really cool. Some of them though were just you could tell they didn't have a clue kind of what was happening in their departments. I don't know how they got those jobs. And I probably blame the hiring manager because I had to go interview everybody on my team that was in India, and so I got to pick them, and they were all pretty good. So I blame the hiring manager for that. Let's see. All right, I think that's actually good right there. I think I want to I'm going to just comment this out to leave it for posterity's sake. Same thing with this guy right here. So now, actually, believe it or not, all we have to do is go build the graph here. I don't think we actually even need this right here. I don't think we use the browser state at all. I thought we were going to need it. That's why I added it in here. Let's take that out. Take you out. Yeah, I think that's all we're going to need. So let's add this into it. Oh, gosh. What is it? I haven't had to build the graph in so long. I got to remember what the steps are. Let's see. How did I do this? That's right. I did. So we instantiate the graph, and then I was doing it basically edge node style. That's what we were doing. Let's set that up in here. So this will be our browser agent workflow. We need to import the state graph. And then this is the key, whatever the structure is, this guy right here, the structure of the state table. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say browser agent workflow. We're going to add an edge, and we're going to go from start to this guy right here, browser task prep. Actually, this I need to change. This is just going to be just browser. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to call it the browser wrapper, because whenever we name this, it's going to look a little different. So this is going to go to browser wrapper. Actually, I take that back. We need to give it the name, don't we? Yeah. The key name of where it's going to go. So this is going to go to, we're going to call this browser. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a node to this. I need to import start from LangGraph. There we go. So then what we do is we just add our edge to it. So from our workflow, we're going to add a node. And then first thing we give it is the node name, I think. And then the function that's going to run with it. So the function is going to be our browser, like this. And that should be it, actually. And then all we do is we build our graph. That's right. I had to remember. I remember the rough steps, but the exact commands I didn't remember. We'll call this our browser agent graph. And then this is going to be compiled from our browser agent workflow. Very simple. So essentially, it's going to look like a start, one node, and then an end. Starting to learn about C2 servers right now? Nice, man. Which one are you working on? Are you messing with like a particular one? Or are you kind of tinkering with building your own? Let's see, so that's our browser agent graph. Let me think about something in this real quick. So here's our specialty agents. I'm going to go ahead and delete this env file because we shouldn't need that anymore. We should just need browser agent. I'm going to leave the working one right now. I'm going to leave the README at this moment. Trying to make your own. Cool, man. Dude, I really like, typically I've thought about trying to like roll my own C2, but I actually really like Mythic C2. That's a really nice framework for doing command and control interactions. So it's been a lot of fun with it. Usually it's not the building of the C2s that are hard, it's the maintaining of them. Because once you get it running, then it's like, okay, you find bugs, you want to add new features. So it's the care and feeding of it that really gets to be difficult. Yeah. Let's see. Usually, really, the only reason why I haven't tried to kind of like roll my own C2 is just for time, right? I've only got so much time to work on projects, and there's so many C2 frameworks out there. It's a lot of fun to just to make use of those. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So after we get the graph exposed here, I gotta double check something so I can remember something about how our Python init.py. I gotta double check something on this real quick. We're trying to make this a little bit special. Let's see. So it runs whenever you import the package. You can use it to initialize package level variables, define functions or classes. Yeah. See, they've got an example. Tools, version, magic number. Yeah. Because what we could do then is, I think that's the way I want to do this, is we're going to make a new init.py. This is going to be, and then our init.py, what we're going to do is we're going to import browser agent. I want to do. What did I call the graph? Browser agent graph. Yeah, actually, let's do this real quick because really, that's I think the main thing we want to expose is the graph. So let's do that. Let's see. So from browser agent, import browser agent graph. And then what we wanted to do is we're going to say browser agent is going to equal. So then what we should be able to do is just import browser agent from there, if I remember correctly. How would I start my journey as a red teamer? Really, I usually recommend people start, if you want to go into offensive security, in one of two ways. Typically, you can either really start in doing like system administration, because there's usually a buildup of what you're working on with these things, right? So if you think about, like, let's say your goal is to be on a red team. I can't. My writing is terrible. A red team or a pen tester, right? They're slightly different, but let's say for now they're like on the same level right here. Well, to do this, really what you're doing is, if you think about it, is you're doing unauthorized system administration. That's it. The key part here is the system admin. You're essentially going through and you're changing the way the computer works, a lot of times using very legitimate processes, into a way that is not desirable for the target, right? So this usually comes about in one of two ways. You might usually come through and actually start being like a system administrator. So this could be like doing server administration, network, you name it, but getting used to like how those large corporate environments work. Another way would be doing something like security engineering. And security engineering is very much like a system administrator, except you're working on maintaining the security infrastructure. Things like a SIM, things like log sources, Splunk, antivirus, EDR, things like that. So really all you have to do is think about, this is really what you're doing. Just reverse the polarity, right? So, going from one of these two roles up to this, just turn it backwards. So you know where you want to go. What is this really? Unauthorized sysadmin. So you need to understand how those systems function and work. And really, I recommend to people, once you get an idea of what very common security issues there are, stop taking hacking courses. If you had something like the OSCP, or if you had something like the Red Team Ops course from Zero Point Security, or any of those other ones that really that teach you how to think about security issues, where they arise, confusing input with data or data with input, wherever they come from, what you want to do is stop taking security courses and start taking admin courses. That's where the money's going to be. Because once you understand how the systems work, then it's really simple to just plug it into this flow right here. I would say probably better than 90% of what I do is using built-in systems to do what I would call malicious or unauthorized system administration. I just realized that's like horribly written to be unauthorized. And so, like, a lot of times I'm using built-in Windows systems. I had a really interesting case, and actually I'm waiting to see the recording of the Black Hat talk because I was supposed to get a shout out from a coworker, and he actually went through and found out how a whole bunch of stuff works with Windows, server clustering. Because if you didn't know that, you can actually cluster those servers together, and he developed a whole bunch of interesting new tradecraft around that. And it all happened because during an assessment, we got access to a system. It looked something like this, right? We saw, let's call this server A, right? We saw that there was a really weird permission on server A. So from our user account, we were essentially able to take over server A. However, we couldn't actually talk to server A using a bunch of our other tools. So like, we're trying to get it to work with stuff like Impacket, a whole bunch of other tools, and they were just not having it for some reason. Later, what we found out is that server A was actually part of a cluster. So there was also like server B, and there was server C. And once you take these guys, and they're all clustered together, they really just look like one giant server over here. So by taking, for some reason, just one server in the cluster, though, had that ability to be abused. And whenever we targeted it, it did kind of work. However, none of our specialty tooling was working, like all of our fancy hacking tools. What managed to finally get me access to it was Task Manager. I went in, I ran Task Manager to connect to the one affected server, and we were able to actually get it over to it. It was wild. So like I said, sometimes it's just understanding how these work. And like I said, one of the things that's nice about using some of this built-in tooling is that it understands kind of how to talk to it in those specialty circumstances. So understanding the system administration side lets you do the unauthorized system administration side. Yeah, it was a really funny situation. And so, and you would think it wouldn't work if you understand Windows authentication with Kerberos and some other ones, but it actually did. And so what he was doing, his research was all like trying to figure out why did it work and what was Windows doing in the back end that wasn't well documented. So he did do some really interesting work on it. He gave a talk on it at Black Hat this past week. Let's see. All right, where's our exploitation agent? Let me close this. I'm gonna leave this stuff up because now what we need to do is come over here to the exploitation agent right here, and we need to make some modifications to it. So we're gonna update the graph. We're going to add another node right over here. Let me think about this. Hey, no problem, Vipin. Dude, when I put Q&A in the stream title, I mean it. Like, I like people asking questions, especially if I can help provide you some guidance. I've been in IT for 15 years. I've been messing with computers since the second grade, which was back when we were still running like Windows 3.11. It's been a minute, right? And I've been in offensive security for 7 years now. So half my IT career has been in offensive security. So I did about 5 years doing system administration. I did about 3 years, roughly, doing security engineering. I think it was like 4 years and 3 years, and then 7 years in offensive security. Do I have any courses? I do not. No. I've thought about trying to make a couple of specialty courses. However, I don't know if I've got anything that I think would be novel enough to like really go spin up a course. I do like what Tyler Ramsby is doing. If you haven't seen him, I think his site is hacksmarter.org. Yeah. So come over here, we do catcourses.txt. He's got his courses up over on Simply Cyber. Let's see. Here, I'll drop a link to that for everyone over in the chat. But they've got some really good ones up here on Simply Cyber. Tyler Ramsby is publishing his own up here, like his hands-on phishing. I haven't looked at it, but he's been doing pretty good. Plus, he's also got them extremely, like, reasonably priced over here. So, another really good one is 0 Point Security. Where's his trainings? Let's see, view courses. Here we go. So he's got 2 courses up here right now. He's actually in the process of migrating his from his old site to his new site. So these are the only 2 that are up now. But I would check this one out. Oh, you got a bachelor's in network engineering. Nice. Okay, very good. That sets you up very well for having that nice kind of baseline. Networking is actually where I started too. I started in Cisco land, doing lots of Cisco system administration, and then moved into security from that. And so, but I had a really good kind of foundation set, because my very first IT job, I was doing lots of things. I was doing server administration, endpoint administration, basically think of it like customer support, client support, because I was working in a teaching lab helping students, taking care of their stuff. Network support, because we had to build and maintain the network for the students to build and maintain their networks for their lessons. Servers, because we had a whole virtualized environment in there, so I got a lot of exposure to ESXi and vSphere and a bunch of other situations there. So it was just like I was in Candyland. I was able to go play with all sorts of nice, tasty technology. It was incredibly beneficial. But yeah, those are a couple of the sites that I recommend. The OSCP is still very highly regarded. I think they price themselves too high. I think it's really too expensive. Let me think about something in here, because what I want to do is, where's configuration actually stored? This is in utils. I might just go make another script over here in utils, and then in utils, I'm thinking to have like a list of specialty agents in here. Essentially what it will do is it will come to this specialty agents directory, go into each directory. Data shouldn't actually have anything. Let's delete. Access denied to that? What? Specialty agents browser agent. There is no data directory in here. Why is that still showing up? Something is weird here. Oh, it's because this is the... I forgot, that was the old directory in here. Yeah, there was a I called it specialty agents, then I changed it to special agents. That's what the issue is. Hang on. Let me get rid of this real quick. This one right here. We're gonna get rid of this. There we go. That's going away. It's this one right here. Actually, yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to make a new Python file in here. This one's also going to be an init file. And then, actually, do I want to do that? No, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I think I want to take that out. And just leave this in here. So, over here, where's our utils? What we're going to do is we're going to make a new Python folder here. We're going to call it specialagents.py. And we will add that. And then what we're going to do is special agents is actually going to iterate over each of the folders in here. So I got to figure out how to do that. Let's see. Python get list of files in a directory. Remember what function to use for that? Okay, so we can do import OS and then list the directory for the path. Let's do that real quick. So import OS real quick. We'll say the path is going to be, let's see, special agents is here, so we need to go up one. And we're going to go to special agents. And what we're going to do is os.listdir from path. I'm just going to print that. Let me see how to do this real quick. What I'm trying to do is replicate a little bit of the functionality. Perfect. Replicate a little bit of the functionality that I saw with Comfy UI, because I liked the way Comfy UI allowed you to import custom nodes. Essentially, they had a custom nodes directory, and you could just take all those new nodes and come drop them in over to Browser Agent, just like that. This will probably need to get a little bit extra finessing. I want to get it working, and then we'll break it out a little bit more. But this is awesome. So what we can do then is think about this. Import. So from special agents, import our browser agent. And then basically that's going to give us everything we've got from here. Browser agent graph. Just like, or which actually would be our browser agent here. So let's see, browser agent dot. I think that would work. And so what I'm basically wanting to happen is we're going to get this and we're going to basically append it to a list over there. What do you think about this? Actually, I think what I want to do is we're just going to call this maybe just like that. What I'm trying to think about is what I want this script to do is come through and iterate over all of these and provide a very clean explanation of, hey, this is what we're looking at. Let's do that real quick. We'll do... Actually, let me look something. So let's say from... How did I do that, actually? I think we did import... Oh, no, it was from special agent. That's what it was. So from special agents, import browser agent. There we go. And then what we'd look at is browser agent. Let's see, underscore agent. There we go. And that should give us our interface into everything in so. Yeah, I think that will work. I think that will work. So if we had like, because we're getting this list in here from our directories. Yeah, let's do that real quick. So order in dirs. What we're going to do is we're going to from special agents import dir. I can't remember how to do that. Let's see. Python import from import variable. Actually, import statement with variable. Statements with variable. Gotta remember how to do this. Let's see. So Python does have a feature that directly equivalent to something like PHP. So to get a variables value, you can use the eval function. This can't be used for part of the import system. It's possible to use underscore import function to import using a variable. Let's see. From list. So that's equivalent to doing like from OS. Import path as okay. We might have to do these kind of variable like this. What is this from though? This is from 2011 though, so there has to be a little bit more updated version of this. Actually, there's another way we could do this, come to think of it. Let's back this out. So we have a list of the directories, right? So what we could do is... How would I do this? Let me think. Let's see. Python import dynamic list variable. Oh, gotcha. So what we do is we just refer to it by a value. We'll test this out in the console in just a second. I'll be right back, guys. I need to get some water. Right. Back. Okay, so what we could do is we can use that underscore import value in. Let's test this out real quick. And so for our module name, let's do this. So for directory in dirs, our import is going to be here. We'll do it that way. That make you happy? I think that'll work. So then what we'll do is let's make a list here. So what we'll call this our special agents is going to be just a blank dictionary. I think what we'll do now is we'll say special agents, then what we're going to do is we're going to write t as the key, and we're going to say that is going to be equal to module dot underscore agent. I think that will work. Wait, is that protected? Okay, we'll just change it then. I think because it's underscored, it thinks it's protected, but it's not. Then let's just do a quick test on this one. We'll have it just print out the contents of special agents. Oh, no module named browser agent. Okay. So, need to get it over into the right spot. Oh, here we go. Actually, there's a better option for this. Import lib, import module. Try that one. The question is, what do we need to import for this string? The package argument is required when performing a relative import. Specifies the package to use as the anchor point, which to resolve the relative import. So this is probably going to give the same issue where it's going to say, hey, we don't have no module named browser agent. What if we can import it directly, though? So what if we did format string, we'll give it our path. We do something just for some debugging. There's. Actually, does OS have a different one where we can like list? Yeah, we could just do the list directory. That's fine. So what we'll do is we'll do path and then /, and then we'll do D with directory. Let's see, so the package argument is required to perform a relative import. Let's see. Let me go look for this module real quick. Because eventually, like I said, what I want is, I want people to just be able to drop their specialty agents like in this directory and then have it auto import over to it. Let's look at the implementation for import lib. Let's see, so this has three purposes. One's to provide an implementation for the import system. Provides implementation to import, which is portable to any Python interpreter. So the components to the import are exposed in this package, making it easier for users to create their own custom objects. So for import module, we do this. Name argument to specify which module is imported in absolute or relative terms. For example, package.mod or .mod. Let's see, so for this example, if we do .mod and package.subpackage, it'll import package. Okay. Import lib reload. Let's see. Let's see. We have another one in here, path entry finder. Abstract class representing a path entry. That's not exactly what. So maybe instead of import module, we actually do want to use underscore instead. What are we expecting for this? Let's try this one. Maybe this will work. So DIRs came back, but specialty agents did not come. See that? We only got one print statement. Let's see. We had no module named browser 8. So how do we do a dynamic import from a directory? Let's see. Let's see. So do import lib. Import all modules from a directory. We have our package, we got this, we have our code. So import package. Not quite work. Let's see. So for import list, so for module in, here, what we're going to do, if modules init pi or module /3 is not a .py, continue. It's like the exact same. What's the difference between these two examples here? Oh, this was using underscore import. This one's using actually import. The best way is to list all the python.py files in the current folder and put them all as variables in an int. Good work. Let me try this example. Let's see what we got. See if we can understand what it's doing. For this one, it's looking at OS path third name. What is this going to return, though? Let's test this out in the interpreter real quick. Let's go over here, close that one, start new. So if we import OS, then we're also going to import import lib. Let's get these two in here. I want to see something real quick. So os dot list dir, and then he was doing os dot path dir name, and then he used this special underscore file operator. What do we get? This is example. Let's see here. How else will I do this? Path should be a string. Well, in this case, it's actually executing it as special agents. So actually, I think that is the way we want to do this in here. What we did special agency. The documentation's not super clear. No such directory. What is OS path dir name giving us? Let's see, this should tell us like what the path of the base function is, right? Let's see. Oh, that's just for the file. I see. So this returns a dictionary name of the path name path. Let's see. So the first element of the pair returned by passing path to it. Okay. So what he was saying here is that What is underscore? I know this is like a special variable. I just don't know what it is. How do I want to tackle this? Let me check that real quick. Python. What's the file variable? Let's see. Variable that contains the path to the module that is currently being imported. So Python creates the file variable itself when it's about to import a module. So that's not exactly, because we're not importing it until here. Just this one. Let's do let's give it an exact path. Let's see. This is gonna be home Debian HackBot. That's going to be in special agent. So now what if we bring this back? Just do special agent. Nope, that's not good. Let's try this real quick. What if we just did OS lister? We'll give it special agent. That does give us what we want. So we then have our browser agent. There. Then we have browser agent, and then what we want to do is actually, heck, we've already got that right here. Yeah. We don't even need this. So from special agents, and really, if it's just initPy, we don't even care about if it's a .py in here. So from the initPy, what we do is we continue. We do this. So this is taking off the last three in here, so that's taking off the .py in there, so it should be importing it as underscore name. Let's try running this. Oh, in this case, it's not liking it because like where we're running it in here. Let's do something real quick. Do if name if name equals then we'll do this a little bit different. Then we'll run our main function. What we'll do is we'll just wrap this all up into a function right here. Define main real quick. Wrap this all up in here. Then what we'll do is actually, I'm just worry about this for a second here. Because what I want to do is, basically what I'm doing is I'm forcing it to use this, and then we'll do it a slightly different way to kind of debug it. We can change this to path right here. The reason why it looks different in the Python interpreter is because this is acting in the context of being in the utils folder. The other one was acting in the context of being in the HackBot folder. That was the difference here. Check this out. Let's try it again. See if I understand what he was saying with this real quick. So we can't import the package. What he's got is he has the package name here. We got an underscore init. It says if matches this, and then he set the package name in. Let's try this real quick. So what is this guy saying here? So the difference is this guy's got it going on right here. What was the underscore file? So Python creates the underscore file variable itself when it's about to import. So if we like import something like, for example, hello world, we run this. And if we print the hello world underscore file, we get hello world.py. Getting down into the Python weeds. I love it. Let's see. Yeah, I thought I was going to get this all imported. Once this dynamic import is done, what we can do is we can then go over to the agents and we can modify their workflow a bit. And we can add in that second conditional jump. Thought I knew how this was going to work. Apparently, I'm an idiot though. That's all right. That way we get to be non-idiots just by struggling and learning. Let's see. So here's our path. So the module is underscore init. That what we want to do is we want to import that module. And it's saying we don't have our package. So let's say package equals, let's give it a name. For this particular example. You have module name. Oh, it has no object call. Let's see. What do we have then? We still get no module named browser 8. He was saying underscore. Which I'm guessing this is actually going to work, because as we import it, it should work in here just fine. Oh, I don't think it likes that this is in the main function here. All right, let's take this back out. Let's bring those up a scope line. Let's comment this part over. I think we're on the correct track. There's just something I'm missing. Probably what I'm doing is I'm probably not structuring the Python module correctly. So, create. Let me double check something. I think we're using Python 3.12. Yeah, we're using 3.12. So a Python module is a file containing Python definitions and statements. The file name is the module name with the suffix .py. So within a module, module's name is a string, is available when you copy it. Okay. How do you create one, correct? Maybe I misunderstood how Python modules work. I thought Python modules imported, it found the folder, it saw it had an underscore in it, and then it imported that, but maybe my understanding is not correct. This is in mymodule.py, so we import my module. We do have browser agent, and then we have browser agent.py in here. Take a look at something real quick. Let's go look at Comfy UI's code real fast. We look at their example here. So what they do is they provide a class with it. Now where do the imports come in at? So init external custom nodes. Let me see how they're doing it. All right, so this function loads the custom nodes from the specified folder paths, imports them into the application, measures the import times for each of the custom nodes, and returns nothing. Okay. See, node paths. All right, so for each custom node path in our node paths, we get the OS real path, and that's where we're going to get it from. Okay, so they're using the real path. They're not using the the relative path. So if we have an underscore pi cache and a possible modules, it's going to remove the pi cache. Interesting. Probably as a security measure, if I had to guess. So we take the custom node path with our possible module, which that comes from. That's where this is coming from. They list DIRs, they get the real path to the custom node path right here. And then custom node path, where is this coming from? That's coming from our node class mappings, wherever they got that from. Okay. We're going to make this happen. I really like the way Comfy UI handles this. Typically, what you'd see is something like, let me give you another example. Comfy UI, let me think about it. What's a good node? Frame pack node. Let me just look for one like that. Here's our frame pack wrapper, right? So this whole thing right here, this frame pack wrapper, what you would do is in Comfy UI, there's a custom nodes folder. You would basically just git clone this down into that folder. It usually has a requirements.txt, and then you would go through and copy it down. It would try to run the requirements.txt. It's like hit or miss if it does, but these are custom libraries that might be needed to run that folder and that node. And this is essentially what I'm attempting to kind of duplicate. So I really like the way it does this, and I think it's a fairly nice system. So let's kind of look at, again, what they're doing here. Let's see, the node, the base node names. I'm pretty sure that's just setting the... Oh, here we go. Get folder paths. So they have a specialized function here that says, hey, this is where custom nodes lives. And then let's see. So for the custom node path in node paths, they list out the possible modules. Here, the structure of this. So we do have an underscore init pi, and then we do what they emit is like an underscore all right here. The class node mappings and the display name. So that basically it says, hey, here's the functions and here's what they look like inside of the Comfy user interface. Let's see. How do we want to do this? This looks a little bit odd just because of where we're at in this. In fact, I think what I want to do is I want to move this up here. And the reason is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up. We're not going to run main. We're going to do kind of what the path is here. And then what they're using is they're actually using the real path. You see how this actually operates. And we can do that. It's just... Instead of that, we're going to do path here. Now I'm going to actually do an else in here. So if this is the main function, we're going to do it that way. Otherwise, the path is just going to be special. Like this. For some reason, it thinks there's a typo in it. But there's no typo in it. It just doesn't like it that it's one word. Let's see. So this will drop it up one. It was break rate. Let's debug this. Kind of just take a look at it. Okay, so from our DIRs, we have our browser agent. That's all cool. Let's do a little break here and let it continue. So we hit the next breakpoint. So what does our module look like? Looks like browser agent right here. Happens. We're gonna hit a continue. Before I get too far into this, let's go finish looking at how Comfy does this. So what do they look for here? Let me take some notes here. So what they do is they get kind of like what the base directory is. They get whatever the real path is. So what is the OS real path? Let me stop this for now. What is this actually returning? Like, is this returning the exact path to it? What's our real path do? Returns the canonical path of the specified program file, eliminating any symbolic links encountered in the path if they're supported. Windows, this function resolves MS-DOS short names. Okay. I mean, it shouldn't do anything wild here. We saw it was working because we did see like the browser come back. Oh, so in this case, it's actually ignoring the .py. I see where we gotta go. I think it's special agents. Here, if I had to guess, let me rename that variable. Maybe it needs a dot in here. Try this. Dang it. I thought I was going to get this dynamic import done because I thought it was going to be real simple, but that's what I get for thinking. So this is actually skipping over the initpy in here. So what we will need to do is actually over here, probably in browser agent, how do I want to do this? Let's think about this. So we've got the browser agent graph here. See if I can get like a static example working where we've just got the one in here. So the package argument has to be supplied when providing a relative import. So what is our module? So our module is called browser agent. So if we call this just module, let it be that variable in there. So we have no module named browser agent. Sure. Sure about that? Let me think about this. I've got to be doing something wrong with the module. Oh. Sorry for the flashbang there. Let's see. Parent packages are automatically imported. That's fine. All right, so the name argument specifies what module to import in absolute or relative terms. So it could either be package or module. So if the name is specified in relative terms, then the package argument must be set. I need an example of this, though. So I don't. There's some terminology I'm missing in here. So for this example, they've got module 1 in here. Got module 2. So importing custom modules using import lib. So they say our module, we're going to import mod 1. But these are all, excuse me, these are all like in the same path here. Oh, so there's also an import lib resource. So in this example, we're going to fetch data from a text file using this. So we have our text, we have our PyCache, an init, and then sample.txt. So from import, so they use resources here. They're going to open a text file. So in this example, we're going to print the loader path the module uses with util findspec and loader load module methods. What does this findspec method do? That's not what I wanted. That's an abstract method for finding a spec for the specific module. The spec, all the stuff I didn't expect to have to go through for importing something. So if it's a top level import, path's gonna be none. Otherwise, this will search for a subpackage or a module in path with the value of path. Okay. So maybe this is what we need here. Hold on, before I get too far, let me go back to what Comfy's doing in here. So the module path they look for is the custom node path. In here, they join those together. They say, is it a file? And when they split it, does it not equal .py? Then if it continues, if it ends with disabled, we continue. Let's see. So then it runs load custom nodes from module path. So I need to know where this function's actually being. This is the one that's actually doing the hard work here. So it gets the module path. It takes the first element in it, get the module name, and then what it's going to say is going to try to load custom modules. Load spec from file location. All right, so what is a spec file? Let's see. So module spec is a namespace containing the import related information used to load a module. Well, aren't you just handy? That was about as clear as mud. That's all right. We're gonna figure this. We're gonna figure this out. System module name. So for this spec from file location, let's see. So it's a factory function for creating a module spec instance based on the path to a file. Missing information will be filled in on the spec. Okay. Let me just try this by hand. Let's see. Here's our Python term. There we go. Python console. So what's the first thing we need for this? We need the name, the location, and potentially the loader name. So the name, let's call this browser agent, and then the location is going to be special agents browser agent. Let's see if this works. Okay. I don't want that. Interesting. So even though we go with the name browser agent, it's saying, hey, we don't have anything for browser agent in here. Oh, okay, because then we need to actually do an import module from spec from that. Let's see. Let's do a little bit of adjustment here. So we'll call this our module spec. Gonna be, except I misspelled module spec. Does browser agent exist? It does, Palmer. What's up, man? So it exists in this folder right here. So in the overall hierarchy, we've got special agents and then browser agents. So what I'm trying to do is build a little dynamic loader, and I'll specify the kind of like what's to be expected from it here soon. Just trying to see how this is going to work. We have special agents, we've got browser agent, and then inside here, we've got browser agent Pi. Browser is a helper to actually work with this. We're not using it directly. And we also got an init in here. This one, the browser agent Pi. Yeah. So this is basically our actual agent to go through and build the graph for everything. So, in fact, this can all go away. Let me clean these imports up real quick. So what this is here is basically our agent to go through and run everything. And what I thought, the way I thought I understood imports apparently is incredibly wrong, because what I did is brought this over here. My thinking was, okay, from browser agent, we should now have an agent option that we could import. So that was my thought. Apparently I'm completely wrong. So at the end of everything, this browser agent graph is what we're going to need to basically get into a dynamic list, and then we can build the node in the graph that says, okay, here's our list of all of our specialty agents and their descriptions and what we can import with them. And then anytime we make a specialty agent, the idea is we just copy or git clone whatever the special agent is into this directory, and it will dynamically load at boot. Or at execution, I should say. Let's go see. So So what I was about to get you ready to do is we created a spec from the file location called browser agent, and then because I'm following the kind of like the model that Comfy UI uses for its dynamic loading, this is where I got the idea. Yeah. So this is what we're going to actually try right now. So let's do module is going to be our module spec. And it said has no attribute loader. What do we need for the loader? What's Comfy using for the loader? They're not using anything. Oh, I take that back. There we go. That's the loader. The loader, I missed the third variable here. So we have the module name, the path to the module. Oh, actually, no, there's only the two in here. Just like those, right there. They're not even using a module whenever they do this. Unless it's going to be in the initpy when this happens. Let me see how we did this. I'm going to just hard code this real fast. And then okay, so now we've got the initpy in here. So now there should be an agent object in here. Or should it be browser agents? Do dir module. All right, let's do it. Let's try that. What's the name of this module? Browser agent. Okay. So it loaded, and those are the definitions inside the module. Got it. Okay, so what we need to do is, so let me copy these lines real quick so I'll have some notes for this. Let's see, where's our... It's the loader. Oh, it's right there. So, call this the semi-working example. Because then what I could do is I can make this programmatic if I can figure out how to make it kind of static in here. Copy that. Gotcha. Okay, cool. So now once that's up and loaded, then the question is, we use it. Let's see. We have in module here. Where are they comments? Because eventually I'm going to take these, I'm just using them as notes for now, and then I'm going to turn them into the actual programmatic way to do this, where it'll come and loop over everything in here. And so if we go add, eventually, actually, after we get this working, browser agent is going to get yanked out of here and put into its own repository. And so we'll leave that kind of where it's going to go. And then once that portion is done, the idea is that if we go make a new module, we could just drop it into here and then have it dynamically load. So this is just this is a solid working example of this particular agent. What I want to do eventually is have it loop over everything and find what it needs and then bring that over. Let's see. Do a help on the module. I didn't even know there was a help in here. Let's see. Name, browser agent. Package contents, browser, browser agent, and browser agent working. And for our file, we have our underscore hi. So for the module, we had cached, doc, file, loader, name, package, path, and spec. So what we need is, we need this agent from the initpy right here. Yeah. The question is, what do we have in this? Actually, you know what? I forgot. We've got special variables. Now, why is module? Module's showing up in here, right? Like, we've got it. I made the module, so I haven't documented anything, Palmer. Yeah. This is me learning about some Python stuff. Yeah. No, don't worry about it, man. I'm making this and I'm trying to understand it. And the way I'm understanding it is by building stuff and watching it break and crumble and then figuring out how to do it. I make this akin to whenever I'm watching Agent Zero and Honey Badger. They like building towers with like mega blocks and stuff, right? And they build them with these little tiny skinny bases and they wonder why it falls over so easily. They're learning because they didn't give it a wider base, right, to stabilize it. Same thing here, just a little bit different complexity. So, let's see. I'll probably work on this during my flight tomorrow, come to think of it, because we have Wi-Fi on the plane. It might suck trying to do this. It depends on how bad it's going to suck. But, yeah. So, no, this is me trying to learn about Python modules. So if you have suggested reading, I will totally take it. And the thing I find interesting is, right, we have module up here, like where it's accessible as a variable. However, it's not showing up over here, which I find very interesting. Python for the win. I know, right? Let me pause that. Oh, no, you're fine, man. We're actually going to wrap up the stream right now because it is 11 o'clock in the central time zone. And every minute I go past 11 encourages Sock to just come bring the aggro. So Sock is my wife, by the way. The supportive, organized caregiver. So, and she actually hates that term because she doesn't feel like she's very organized. I'm like, honey, compared to me, you're an organizational goddess. I try to be organized. No, I did not go to DEF CON this year. I will probably end up going next year. Probably as, and it will kind of suck because if I go next year, it's probably going to be as a training assistant or Black Hat, which would mean I would be there. And if I stayed for DEF CON, I'd have to fly in on like a Friday. I'd stay until the following Sunday and then fly back, right? So that's a really, really long time in Vegas. I hope we're already a pen tester by the time I get going there. Dude, just go and if you can afford it, go and have fun. Go to the talks, go to the villages, learn from folks. I think the talks are really good. However, be, discerning with which ones you want to go to. Don't try to hit every single talk. A lot of the really good learning happens in some of the villages. However, the last time I was there, which was in 2023, the line for the red team village was incredibly long, which was amazing because I went there during the first time they had the red team village, and the room was fairly well attended, but it wasn't packed. And now it seems like over those couple years, it's just went boom, it just blew up. All right, I gotta find someone to hand off to. Let's see. Let's see here. Actually, before I do that, let's go see if anybody's over on InfoSec streams. Just us. Just us wee into the nighttime hackers. Palmer, have a good night, dude. Thanks for stopping by and giving me a little bit more advice. I didn't even know about the help in there. That's gonna be super helpful, especially once I build the module correctly. Let's see here. Who's doing anything fun right now? You just have to document as you go. Well, I didn't even know you could document them, so I'm learning new things. But that's part of the whole reason for this project, is to learn new things. Let's see. Am I doing fun stuff? Moonwood's on doing something. Actually, let me see what Nerduino's up to. He's always good for it. Yeah, we'll go raid Nerduino. He's doing something fun. All right, guys. Unfortunately, that is where I've got to end it for tonight. No new stream on Tuesday because I will be traveling, but we'll get back to it again next weekend. And guys, the week's coming up. Get ready for it. Some of you, your week has already started, so you should already be in crushing it mode. I have faith in you. You can crush the week. Hold on, that sounded bad. You can crush this week. Don't crush the week. Encourage the week, build them up, make them stronger. Crush your week. Let's do it that way. And so, but that's all I got for you guys. We'll finish getting this darn dynamic import done. I thought I understood Python imports. Turns out I'm a bit more of an ignoramus than I thought, but that's par for the course. We're going to learn it. We're going to figure it out. And then we're going to get back to the hacks. Guys, continue to kick ass this week. I have faith in y'all. And want y'all to remember one very, very important thing. And that is, I love you. Peace.